And welcome back. Welcome also to Sean Lawson. How are you, Sean?
Very well, Billy, thank you.
All right, let's go back to last weekend's round. Some interesting matches, a few upsets.
Yes, there certainly were, and I think probably the highlight, though, was the East-West clash. That was a really good game, and we'll see the highlights a little bit later on.
And it must have been a round of upsets, because you only got 1 out of 5, I think.
I knew you'd bring that up. It was, yeah. I tell you what, Colesey's doing it hard up at Ipswich, because Wynnum went up there and they flogged them. So they got a lot of work to do, and actually I went up on Friday night to a sportsman's dinner up there, and a lot of the local competition, they rate them very much. They can't wait for them to be kicked out.
The Jets, so there's animosity between the domestic comp and the club.
Yeah.
That doesn't help things much, does it, Dave?
Makes it tough.
No, we played Ipswich up there this year at the end of the first round, and I spoke to a coach that coaches one of the metropolitan teams up there, and he gave me that same impression, so it's not looking good for them.
Early season, they didn't even have any balls to train with. Ipswich A grade, they had to use witches' hats to throw around in pre-season training, so
well, it's broken down.
Well, they fly home on a broom,
Well, it's broken down badly because in the first 3 or 4 seasons of the club, as we all know, they were very successful. They made a couple of grand finals, and the organisation and promotion of the club was excellent. So the wheels are falling off somewhere.
Exactly.
Something perhaps the South East Division should have a good hard look at.
Sure. All right, let's go back and have a look at highlights of last weekend's match of the round, the one between East and Wests.
a victory for the Gavin Payne-led Tigers would ensure them a semi-final place. But 2 minutes into the game, it became clear that would be no easy task.
Smith fires a pass out. It could be a try in the corner. It is. That's great work by Smith. He got the pass away to John Green, and look at the elation on the West players. An early try. West leading 4 points to 0.
4 minutes later, West were in again. A Gavin Duncan crossfield bomb snapped up by Mark Maguire.
He was knocked over as he got the kick away. Cannon in some trouble. The bouncer eludes him, and West have got it. And Maguire over in the corner. Mark Maguire. Well, that's what a bomb can do. Cannon was always having difficulties.
The Tigers were in shock, and it was to get much worse. From a tackle infringement, West was soon back on the Tigers' line, and 5'8" Craig Bowen was at his elusive best.
Holding the foot, Fitzgerald plays it back. They work it to the open side. Bowen gets on the outside of his man, still going as Craig Bowen, and the simplest of tries. And it all came because the East defence was so enthusiastic, so keen to move up in a quick line. They raced up, and Bowen was able to easily step around them. They came at him too quickly.
Down 12-0, East were then dealt another blow. Prop Peter Anderson was called out for a head-high tackle.
On the halfway, there's a touch judge in. He's been sent off. He has been sent off. The indication from the referee is that there was a forearm used, if not an elbow.
Up one man and sitting on a commanding lead, West must have been thinking of post-match celebrations when Greg Street struggled his way over.
Street's over. Oh, tremendous effort from the centre, Greg Street. He looked as if he would be stopped. In fact, he should have been stopped.
3 minutes later, both sides were down to 12 men. Mark O'Reilly's high shot on Paul Lusk, gaining him 10 minutes in the bin. From the kick for line, East worked into the scoring zone, and Steve Dowden and Gavin Payne gave Andrew McGowan the overlap.
Dowden now slips a great ball in behind to Payne, and McGowan over in the corner. Fine football.
The Tigers were now in front 14-12. However, after a blast from Gary Grinke at half-time, Sam Smith put the Panthers back in the lead in the 45th minute.
Great work by Smith.
The match was now wide open, and after a good backline movement which allowed McGowan to get within 1 metre of the line, one of East's smaller men, halfback Paul Green, bounced his way straight through the middle of West forwards.
Defence right on the line. Now East with another chance. Leave. Short ball for Green, and Green is there. Green gets there.
Mulver Hill's conversion made it 22 points to 18 in the Tigers' favour, and then any hopes the Panthers had of retrieving the game vanished. Dave Liddell was pulled out for a high tackle.
Players from both sides come in. Duncan took it up. And Liddell has been sent off. It was a head high. Yep.
The Tigers then went on to secure the premiership lead with a try out wide by skipper Payne.
Here's the chance. Back on the inside, it's Gavin Payne, and there's the try.
And with that win, East went back to the top of the table. West in second place on 20 points, North on 20, and a break of 4 points to Valleys, South and Wynnum all on 16 points. The last 4, they've run their race for the year.
Just having a look at those, that points table, pretty tight up near the top there, Dave.
Yeah, it certainly is, Billy, and, you know, we have to be very careful this weekend, and a lot of results going to be very close this weekend.
Dave, what about the three sides on 16 points? Souths are hanging in there, Winner Manly hanging in there, and Valleys have dropped back. There's only one spot up for grabs. Which of the three at this stage would you fancy?
Well, at the moment, I always said at the beginning of the year, I thought Valleys should have been up there. I think the State League took away a few chances that they should have, the games that they should have won there, and Souths are on a roll at the moment, and but I feel Valleys will get there.
Trouble is with Valleys, though, they've lost two of their best players. Billy Holmes, he's been out
through injury.
Yeah. Marty McKenzie's gone. Eric Kennedy now with some doubt. So
handy players.
Yeah, and Valleys, they've lost, obviously, from last year, lost virtually 10 first graders. Their depth is not as good.
But at least this year you've got a interesting competition. You haven't got one side right out in front, you know, dominating the competition. There's, you know, anyone can win it out of 6 teams.
Just one point there, while watching the highlights of that match from last weekend, 2 send-offs and 2 pretty hefty sentences handed out.
6 weeks they got, 6 weeks.
6 weeks in the Brisbane competition is unbelievable. You used to have to shoot someone in 6 weeks.
Especially this time of year as well, like it's a run into the finals. Those guys are gone until the semi-finals now.
Can't be, I guess it's difficult to criticise judiciaries because so often we've said that players have got off lightly, but just looking at those 2 incidents, I think both players might be considered a little unlucky.
I agree.
Yes, definitely.
All right, so that's what happened last weekend. Let's have a look at matches coming up for this weekend and see how they roll up at Crosby Park for Brothers and Ipswich. Cougar Oval, Wynnum at home there to Souths. And then also moving across to Bishop Park, it's North and East. Should be a top-class match, that one. Dolphin Oval, Redcliffe and Logan City. And what is put down as the match of the day is at Purtell Park today with Wests taking on Valleys. All right, you're up against East, Dave. Should be an interesting match from your point of view, I'd imagine.
Yes, well, we've played them twice this year. Over there in the first round, and they beat us quite convincingly. And then again in the Chairman's Trophy, where we had a player sent off in the first 15 minutes, and you know, we played extremely well in the second half of that game. So tomorrow it's a very important game for us.
Dave, early in the season, you really injected a lot of discipline in the side. Norths last year had a lot of ability, but they gave away silly penalties and got involved in incidents which probably cost them dearly. Then you had that spate of 3 consecutive games where you had players sent off, and you paid the penalty for that, obviously, this season. Have you straightened that out?
Well, I think that all started, I think, a bit from the Chairman's Trophy game. All the executives that were there type of thing, and, you know, that game got a bit heated, and a few of our players went a bit overboard and lost their cool, and, you know, they've paid for it. They're on the sidelines at the moment, so I've made it fully clear to the players that we can't have anyone sitting on the side or getting any players sent off, and the club have put in a fine system for any players that get sent off and found guilty. So, you know, it's all in their hands at the moment.
Dave, you got a couple of players there, and Darryl Duncan and Craig Rourke. All the other teams are saying that you bottle those 2 up, that Norths are gone.
Well, probably that's a good point, you know, but they are 2 very good players.
I'd hate to be trying to bottle up Darryl.
But Craig Rourke is playing well, isn't he? Since he's been cut from the Broncos.
Well, Groff is, you know, he's a confidence player, and I knew how good he could play when I first came to the club, and I probably think last year he'd come back from England, might have been a bit stale towards the end of the year, but, you know, the off-season, he's had time to think, and he wants to get back into the Winfield Cup, and the only way he's going to do that is perform well in this standard of football here. And he's been doing that quite well this year.
Dave, the last 5 games, you've lost 3 of those, and then the other 2 you just snuck in. You just beat Brothers 24-22, and you've said that you're going to win the last 5 games to get there. Your form for the last 5 weeks has been bad.
Well, we won 8 out of 9 in the first round, so I don't think there's any reason why we can't win the remainder 4 games. So, you know, we can beat these teams, and it's up to us to do it. If we do that, we finish on 28 points.
All right, let's move on now to our match of the day. Once again, Wests are involved. Today they meet Valleys at Purtell Park in a game which looms as a make-or-break game for the Diehards.
As the full moon rose over Valleys training this week, there was an unmistakable feeling that a loss today could see the sun set on their finals campaign. Locked in equal 4th spot with Wynnum and Souths, the Diehards face a side which has no doubt turned into their bogey side over the past 2 seasons. In the corresponding game last year, Valleys had to defeat the Panthers to keep in touch for the top 4. However, 2 freak tries, the first from a vicious bounce just before half-time, which allowed 5'8" Craig Bowen to score. And then a 95-metre intercept try by Graham Strutton both contributed to a loss from which the reigning premiers never recovered. It was a similar tale of woe in the first round this year. After leading by 28 points to 10, somehow the Diehards let the Panthers back into the game and in the dying minutes lost the match 30 points to 29.
On the wing, Maguire will score! Maguire scores a try, what a pass!
That defeat is one of 4 losses this season, in which the Diehards have been beaten by only 1 or 2 points. A cruel statistic, but one which coach Geoff Naylor accepts.
Mate, the bottom line is we lost them. You know, they're all losses, so... As I said, like, Logan City have lost some tight ones too, so, you know, where do you draw the line? The bottom, you know, we got 80 minutes to win a game, we haven't won them.
Experienced fullback David Bourke acknowledges that Valleys have to play 80-minute football, not 65.
That's a fair comment, Sean. I think we are losing concentration in those last 10 to 15 minutes. We've been getting in front of the 60-minute mark, and maybe mentally we've been slackening off. And you know, I don't think you could have put it any better. It is an 80-minute game, and we just haven't been finishing sides off when we've had them on toast.
Adding to Valleys' recent woes is the loss of prop Marty McKenzie for the rest of the season with a knee reconstruction. Fellow prop Eric Kennedy is also in doubt with a knee strain, but there is some good news. Queensland hooker Bill Holmes could be back next week after missing 8 games with a broken arm. His leadership will be much needed if the early premiership favourites are to even make the semis.
As I said, 22 I think will be the cut-off, so we've got to win 3 out of 4. When it gets down to winning 3 out of 2, we know we're in trouble.
Today, West will be without prop Dave Liddell. He received 6 weeks for the high tackle on Paul Lusk. Despite his loss, there's still plenty of respect for the Panthers lineup.
Most definitely. I mean, I've seen a number of West games this year, and they've most definitely built on their grand final appearance from last year. It looks like Gary Grenke's doing a fine job with them over there. They've kept the solid nucleus of players from last year, with the exception of maybe Paul Childs and Tad Wildboat, who's left the side. But I'm all in all, they're attacking very well, and they've got a number of danger players that we'll have to watch on Sunday.
So it's Western Valleys in the match of the day. Let's have a look at selections coming up for the weekend, see what the panel think. And, well, AT's thrown a couple of smokies in here. He's getting to the desperate stage of the season, I think. Let's have a look at the points as they stand at the moment. And, GD, that 1 from 5 has knocked you about a bit.
I won't say anything.
A very bad last. Bernie's at the front. There's a new leader. There is a new leader, folks. All right, we'll have a story about Brett Daunt coming up. That's all here, other side of the break.
What's going down? What's happening around our town? Tune in to Brisbane tonight. Tune in tonight. We need to know what matters most, from the sunshine to the Gold Coast. Tune in to Brisbane. Tune in tonight.
Measurements 42 in the neck, 107 Sebastian. What makes a good suit? Well, it's the cut, and of course the skills in measuring, and the selection of material. Pants look good, too long here, we'll have to shorten them. Style of trousers, fully pleated. Fantastic. Now we'll try the jacket on. Would you like to try that on? See the total concept. Oh, it's a beautiful thing. Oh, come on, Freddie, very nice.
Presenting some of the 2,000 body parts you can clean with the new Lever 2000 deodorant bar. Soft parts, like that little divot under your nose. Tough parts, like those hard-working toes. We do armpits, but we also do cheeks. That's cheeks. And it's milder than soap, because Lever 2000 has gentle skincare ingredients. You can even use it on baby parts, mummy parts, and daddy parts. New Lever 2000, the mild deodorant bar that cares for your skin and all your 2,000 parts.
Do you wake up feeling worse than when you went to sleep? Well, now there's Pelza, the bed pillow that correctly supports your head and neck whilst offering the optimum in comfort because of its specially designed inner. Your best pal's a pillow, the answer to intelligent sleep.
Bev and I saw a lot of project builders before we chose Tamarwood. Their homes are great value and their workmanship is excellent. And when it came to adding a few personal touches, Tamworwood's pricing was very reasonable. We're really happy with our home, and we're glad we chose Tamworwood.
Our Vic is really fit and healthy these days. He rides his bike often and loves new McCain Healthy Choice dinners. Low in fat, cholesterol and salt. Oh, McCain Healthy Choice. You've done it again.
Together we've toiled with might and main. Together we've made it great. Together we've lent a helping hand for the good of our mates. Yes, that's the spirit of Ipswich, hard fought and hard won. Yes, that's the spirit of Ipswich, today alive in everyone.
Ipswich Credit Union. That's the spirit.
Let's have a look at our Rugby League file for this week and have a look at some of the week in history. Back in 65, 13th of July, Colin Vandervoort was born. 14th of July, 79, Australia completed the first clean sweep of Ashes here. I guess he's pretty happy he was too. And on the 19th of July in 58, Keith Holman played his record 14th test against Great Britain. And I would suggest is probably still talking about it. Now, you ask any Brisbane Rugby League supporter who's the best playmaker in the competition, odds are that Valleys halfback Brett Daunt would be their response. To most observers, it's been a surprise that no offers have come his way from Sydney clubs. That is, until now.
Brett Daunt could hardly conceal his delight at training this week. His long-awaited chance to play in the Sydney League may finally have come after a phone call from out of the blue.
Mitch Brennan ended up getting hold of me. He's a licensed officer. And Tim Sheens rang me last week to see if I was interested in going to Sydney. And it's just a matter of working things out at the end of the month now.
Obviously he said yes.
Obviously, yeah. It'd be great to have a chance to play in the Winfield Cup.
Few would begrudge the Valleys halfback his opportunity. Since the mid-80s, he's been consistently one of the best, if not the best, ball player in the BRL. His creative ability helped the Diehards to grand final wins from 1988 to 1990, and his combination with Peter Coyne was almost telepathic before the 5/8 was snapped up by St George last year. Daunt said seeing his best mate get his chance filled him with envy.
Oh yeah, naturally, you know, but now I might get that chance to have a go at it myself now.
Valleys coach Geoff Naylor, a former Balmain prop, has no doubts Daunt has the class to make a mark in Sydney.
I think so, mate. It's just the intensity of probably being out the best of him. Peter Coyne made the transition fairly well once he adjusted to the intensity, the training, you know, strength, speed and all that sort of stuff, just stepped up a level. But both of them have got the brains enough to run a game and, you know, that's the biggest thing.
If Canberra is given a salary cap increase as predicted, then Daunt has been guaranteed a sign-on. And his chances of playing alongside Meninga, Clyde, Daly and co in the top grade would be good, according to Canberra coach Tim Sheens. For Daunt, it's all a bit flattering.
Yeah, I was actually being from Canberra, but one thing he did state to me was when Phil Blake went to Canberra this year, he had Daly and Stewart to compete with. And he hasn't played a reserve grade game all year. He's either been a fresh reserve or they've had out with rep games. So there's hope there, I suppose.
He's certainly a good player, young Brett Daunt. But back to Dave, are you happy with the setup at Norths so far?
Yeah, Judy, I've been really happy the way I've been treated by the committee. You know, they've looked after me quite well. And you know, when I first got there, it was a bit hard with the players. I think with Tommy being there the last couple of years, you know, it's a pretty big ask to come in, and you know, he's such a strong personality, and you know, it took a while for a few of the players to respond to what I was talking about, but I'm happy with the way things are going at the moment.
Dave, I'm sorry, Greg.
Are you going to seek another term?
I've asked the committee about that, and you know, I hope to. I'd like to coach there again next year, and you know, that's up to them if they want me there. You know, they'll talk to me, I think.
Do you treat coaching on a year-to-year basis, Dave? Because you've covered a bit of territory, Harvey Bay last year, Western Australia the year before. Obviously, coaching is an important thing in your future plans. Would you like to get into Sydney coaching if possible?
Yeah, eventually I would, but when I went to Perth, that was through a job I had, and I spent 3 years there, and I bought a house there and I was going to settle down, but a lot of things happened over there with the league, and I wasn't happy the way things were running along with the administration, that sort of thing, and I put in for a few Brisbane coaching jobs, but I didn't get them, so I ended up coming back to Harvey Bay, where a lot of my relations live, and coached up there for the year, and then the opportunity came to coach North this year, and I got it, so...
There's been talk of a Perth side in the expanded Winfield Cup in 1995, having had 3 years there, you're well qualified to assess probably how a team would go. Would it work?
Oh, Perth, the local people will follow any sport, and I think the basketball shows that, and the Aussie rules over there. But you know, they've got new administration in there at the moment. They've, you know, flicked a few blokes out of there, so you know, they could get it up and running, but you know, the cost is a big thing you're going to have to look at.
Yeah, it'd be quite a bit getting people over there, backwards and forwards and so forth. All right, we might take a break. Other side of the break, believe it or not, Wayne Bennett talks.